Okay, this is going to be a little weird one here, but let's see if we can't pull the ideas of mythology out of reality somewhat and ancient tales of certain people. We're currently kind of specializing in Celtic areas and things like that, and if you'll look at this area that I'm in now, I'm in my Dungeons and Dragons game that I play called Neverwinter. And there are certain things that you see here that point out things that can lead to a myriad of topics. But where we are is a place that has bogs and fens and moors and things like that. And there are people that live in and across that area that have penetrated that area, and in doing so cause a problem with the livelihood of these other people that are here. Okay? Now we're just talking about two different people and so on, but there was a time whenever a people came to this land, and due to all the hardships they went through, they became a diminutive people that were, breaking 5 foot. It happens. It's happened during, even they've seen people even during just droughts and things, how their size just drops incredibly. At first, well, not at first, but they had thought that's what caused pygmyism, and then they see it in animals that get trapped, like elephants on an island become much smaller and things like that. So people in the island of Flores and these, but here's these pygmy people, and they're just pygmies, right? So you have this concept of pygmies compared to a normal sized person, but there's two kind of normal sized people. There's an elf, and in some people's stories elves are bigger than humans, and in the other stories humans are bigger than elves, usually a little bit, not much. And elves are a people that went away, and the humans are the ones that stayed. And this is all in the tales of Dungeons and Dragons, but it's all in the mythology of this area, so I'm trying to pull this all together. Notice how they even put poppy representations of flowers here, which is kind of telling. And if you'll look in the distance, you can see something that's Blair Witchish right here, and these people that would make sacred groves. And these sacred groves, they would line up trees so that there would be an archway built. And I know this looks funny. Here, let's see if I can just kill these guys off real quick. I'm trying to tell a story here. Those are called quicklings. You would know them as brownies or pixies or things like that, right? Well, pixies are Picts, like Pictus people. And so you get stories like that. Look at these mushrooms. One eats it, makes you bigger, and one makes you smaller. And what has that got to do with it? Well, there's narcotic effects done with these, and these people that came to this area would drink narcotics whenever they would fight sometimes, and it would cause them, well, they call them berserkers. And they would be able to withstand battle and just have all this stamina and stuff and go crazy, seemingly. And whenever you play one in Dungeons and Dragons, seemingly you give up some defense of yourself, like even throw off the shield but try to have two weapons, things like this, right? And so berserkers, and they would just go berserk eventually. They'd hit a certain point in battle and they would just lose it. I like getting a fight with somebody, then you hit them in the mouth, and all of a sudden they just lose it, But these archways here, which is shown that's all Blair Witchy, freak out, could really just be, well, I grew up part of my life in rural Georgia, and they have a lot of these streets where they have these trees. They totally planted them on purpose, right down the sides of streets. So whenever you drove down the streets, in this lane or boulevard that you'd be going through like this. And you know, Six Flags has a little place that's all built over like this and so on. But this also was a portal to a magic area of sacred trees that are huge and big oak trees that had been here forever, right? Now it's been taken over by these people, and there's trolls and all kinds of things going on here. But let's tie this back to a people here. So you see this, it's foggy all the time and blah blah blah, and you can see how some people who are not experienced with this would come up with that idea. But hell, if you've lived London fog and all those things in that area, people from that area, you know, get a shout here. It gets to the point where it's going to be a topic. It's going to be a thing. In fact, whenever there's steady days of not rain. So what they're telling you here is that something came to this forest and you've got to help fix it. And so you go through these things. Well, there's these stories of these brownies. And let's see if I can just break this down. Okay, so there's pixies, and that really represents the pix. Now, everything doesn't just fit like super puzzles. And if I sit right here at the campfire, we can have a Tales of the Campfire here. But, and they'll say things every once in a while and talk about witches and don't trust them and all these things like that. The way trolls heal, it takes twice as long to kill them. Cauldrons and curses, I have no patience for witches. Well, trolls healing, what's that? Well, apparently they have witches hooked up with them, which is just a healer type situation. So you can play a healer in this game. It wouldn't be called a witch. Nurses, are nurses a witch? Well, yeah, in these people's eye, there's these things, you know, they're evil. And then later, of course, you can see in biblical things, they don't like that. And so and what do? Well, they do all kinds of things. They do divination. Well, look at the root of the word divination. And divination has to do with divine. And so you're trying to see the correct thing and the next thing and what next to do. People call them a witch, and I've heard jokes about, you know, they should have called them a what instead of a witch. But yet a witch tells you which thing to do, which what not to do. It's almost like a guidance counselor plus a nurse plus all these things. But back then there's all this magic and divination and rolling the bones and all these things you can do. People are looking at livers, which we've seen in the Etruscans and all the way over in the Proto-Europeans, but the Druids hanging around places like this, Stonehenge, it's here. And I wish I could talk to these guys in their original deal. They won't do it anymore. But he talks about Fomorian giants. But this place is old and been here long before and everything and blah, blah, blah. And it's, so what? Well, you hear about the circle of the giants, so that goes all with it. Hell, there's a dude right here riding on a griffin, if you will. I've got one, but I'm riding on a witch, his broom. I like using it because it's a real smooth ride. I've got a drake. Man, I've got so many, let's see. I've got so many mounts, so I could pick anything. Change my mount, and I've got apparatus of Gond, where I'm like a lobster, a wild boar, which would be kind of fitting, or a show pig. I've got a griffin, I've got a forest stag, but this is the autumn version, and I've got a regular forest stag someplace else too. I've got an undead, no, this is the charger, champion's charger. I've got different war horses. I've got a dragon that I can ride. Here, look at this. So I've got a little drake that I could ride. It's real cool, you know. But still, I like the one that I have, or the magic carpet. It floats around real good, and you don't get stuck on little sticks and things. I've got a unicorn, so I could do something like that. I've got a winter sled. Here's a destroyer. This is an undead horse. Has to do with the Aryan barrels and everything else. There's a water horse. I've got a Yeti companion that I can go around with. Ride a white tiger. Winter flail snail. I've got 3 kinds of snails. Here's that other forest forest stag. So he's pretty cool. But the rarer one is the autumn stag. So hey, let's go on with this autumn stag. So here I am. Let me zoom in on it. So you can see him. Check him out. So I'm riding on a stag. Moo. Okay, so let's get back to it. So brownies. Well, one of these people that was here did not dye their clothes. It's one way of looking at it. And there were farmers and stuff, so tanned people. They weren't necessarily, and women having to work and everything too. They were all toiling and hunter-gathering and stuff. So the women weren't getting light and fair like the fairies were. And so these people wore clothes that are much like these elves that you see here, and they're forest clothes, greens and browns and natural colors, and nothing so bright. Why? Well, when they're hunting and stuff, you don't want to wear some bright orange. I know we do that now so people don't shoot each other and things like that, but you could understand people back then used to even put on deer outfits and deer horns to try to look maybe not so much, and they'd sneak up on them and stealth and everything, and this whole idea that's totally different than people meeting in a field and seeing, and you walk close to each other and then you don't fight till they see the whites of their eyes. Oh, these people didn't go for that crap. Oh no, there's all kinds of trickery. So now we have fairies and pixies, and we have Fomorian giants. Well, what's Fomoria? Well, this area that we now call Scandinavia and areas like that was an area known as Fomoria type. And they had these trolls. See this troll? And you got stories about trolls. But trolls got a big hook nose. But trolls also are hooked up with healers. And they automatically have a regenerative quality to themselves. Let me draw my view all the way back again. And they can regenerate. Now here's the witch's place right up here on the left, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't been here in a while. Yeah, okay, this is the witch's den. And you can go in there and you run through this whole thing. It's a quickling den. And what are quicklings? Well, quicklings are also like these little brownies. They hide around the trees. They're hard to see, this, that, and the other. They're short. We probably won't see any right over here. Strangely, they don't have them right near the quickling's den. They're over in the other places. So you get these story about these giants, but you can imagine that to one people, these people were smaller. To one, they were larger. Now let's take this to another dimension. Here's all these giant mushrooms and stuff. Well, are they giant mushrooms, or are they mushrooms that make you giant? Because one pill makes you taller and the other one makes you small. And the one that grandmother gives you doesn't do anything at all. But you can go ask Alice when she was 10 feet tall. Well, what's that talking about? Well, it's like high. And well, what's high about? Well, you're closer to God. Well, you get too high and you're going to die. Yeah, you get to go medium, but you're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be having a meeting. And look at this. There's a cauldron of witches, and they're cooking things and stuff. And oh, this has got to be some bad thing. Well, no, the big cooking pot like this has runes around it and everything, is really them cooking up food for people. And if you look, they have pans and everything over here. But more, you could turn it into, this is a witch's area. She's got all kinds of things. There are stories where they found things that really equal out to a distillery type thing. So are they making alcohol? No, in quite a few situations, they're probably distilling water to make it drinkable. because other than that, you're having to make wine or beer. She's making actual distilled water and things like that. Oh, she's distilling down potions. That wouldn't be done in this big old thing or big things. That would be done in smaller amounts over a fire, but it's got to be done over a fire that you can keep control of over a long period of time. And they talk about how women gaze into these pools and they do this and they do that. Well, that's probably not this one. That's probably a smaller one, and they could be getting a buzz off the fumes coming off of poppy and all kinds of narcotic things they got going in there, sipping the soup, if you will, or something like that, making sure the potion was right so she could give it to somebody so it would enlighten them or do something else. So here's all these little people, and in this area you end up being, well, whoopsie, I'm the big guy, and you've got to fight the little people. So if the little people were making up a mythology, I would be a giant, right? Now, if there were people in ancient times, Cro-Magnons and things that were perhaps easily breaking 6 foot, meeting up with people that were around 5 foot, that could be misconstrued over time into a giant. So you have these diminutive people, not even necessarily dwarves or pygmies or halflings or quicklings type of thing, but people that are diminutive, and the other people are giants. Now, if we have a story like that, and these guys are like elvish type people, and they may be breaking 6 foot, and then these people show up that are well breaking 6 foot and huge, and they're taking potions of giant strength and things like that, and you can get this concept of idea. Now, there's about a threefold way of looking at this, though, and it's kind of odd, I guess, but you can imagine back at a time whenever somebody would probably eat one of these mushrooms, and next thing you know, they'd be tripping out and thinking the mushrooms are this big, so it makes you feel small, or it does these things. But then there's also these mushrooms or other narcotics that make you feel big. But another layer would be as if you're looking at this and you were saying, well, one time there were mammoths. Because you look at some of these Fomorian giants and stuff, and I should probably lead into that area and show you a couple of those guys, for they kind of have tusks like a boar, right? Strength of the boar. Let's see if this is the right area. No, I think I'm leading back now. Oh, probably because I completed that one deal. Yeah, so there's just trolls. Trolls! Yep, even back in the ancient days, trolls. But there's a lot of different kinds of trolls too. Trolls can live up under a bridge, cause all kinds of problems. If you'll notice, some of those trolls there had weapons and things, and the other ones don't really. They're like, duh. Well, were they really duh? Were they giant people that didn't really need to use bigger weapons? A lot of thought to that. But these almost tusk giants, where is the end? It's over here. These almost tusked giants that they talk about, these ancient trolls and so on, in my mind, seem to come from maybe tales of ancient mammoths that no longer existed. If you follow me, right? Is this a dead end? Oh no, it curls back. So now I'm back in this place where these people make these tree houses. They live in trees and stuff. They live in the forest. They don't live out in the open. They live in trees. There's quicklings right there. They've made them almost invisible. They got a little contest going right now. You don't get much from it. What the hell? blood magic. And they say things like that. Anyhow, these Fomorian giants, they have like little tusks. They have extra teeth sticking off the bottom that are poking up. And I quite often thought, well, that's really harkering back to these bigger things. So see, these people are saying, man, y'all are giant. And they're like, no, we ain't the giants. There's these giant things and stuff like that. We used to fight these giants. Yeah, man, they're giant. And whenever you see a picture of them, or you see a skull that you can find of one of them, it looks like they're Cyclops because they have only one hole in the middle of their skull. Now, in an elephant, that's where the trunk goes. But in the idea, you can get this tusk-looking guy that almost looks devilish and weird going on. And that really is like pygmy elephants. And a lot of people have noted, ooh, let's go through the other portal. Next Blair Witch area. A lot of people have noted that that's what the Cyclops story is. It must have to do with that's in the ancient Greek tale because they found those pygmy elephants there. And yeah, that starts to look like it. But then they made up a whole story where they poked his one eye out and got him, free, and the whole story goes with it. And so what does that have to do with anything or stuff? Well, whenever they're telling great tales of Ulysses and stuff, it's gonna get embellished a little bit, and like the tales of Hercules and stuff. And there's actually a reason why certain of these tales are told, for actually they're written in the sky, where there's this giant guy in the sky and these things and da-da-da. So these tales can all go together. Oh, so where was I going to? Oh, yeah, so Stonehenge. Knew it was leading me back here. So hopefully you kind of get the gist of what I was trying to say, although I was trying to talk and move and remember which way to go. But these witches, that's quite a thing almost in its own. And I've done a couple of them a few Halloweens ago in the story of ancient witches and things about them. And then the year after that, I totally kind of showed you that, but took it in a different way in concepts. And putting that into this concept, I guess, in one thing and talking about now, they're really, as much as being an elder woman and may have lost her husband to battles or sickness or who knows whatever, but she's pretty much a lady of the hearth and well respected and knows how to diagnose problems, use potions and poultices and things like that. And this is the very first of medicine and stuff, right? But if you're against those people, then she becomes this thing that causes regenerative qualities in people and can make their people go berserk and do all these things, like the Vikings coming in. But you look at it from the other point of view, it's not necessarily that going on, is it? What's unique about this area, but not so much, is that this is a blend of mythologies, it seems, over time that's been taken and put together. And oddly, the people that were the giants now are telling you stories of themselves in a weird retrospective way, saying there were these people that were giants and da-da-da. Now, I'm not going against giant skeletons that we found and stuff, and people that are, near 9 foot. There's tales of many tales of giant people and somebody that was extremely tall and pointed out and so on. And I'm not going against that. I'm showing you just another side of the mirror, because when you look at it from this side, it's a little different. And this foggy London town, you see, because kind of where this is, London would be back over this way and down that road and not too damn far away. And where's Scotland at? Well, I think it's over this way. And that's the area we've got to go help with the witches getting there and stuff. Yeah, there's a reason for that too, and the Celtic thing, and out over this way. And here's the map, and there's 3 different areas that you got to help, and a major hub that you went to in the first place that has a world tree into it. Oh, let's just go look at that. So you can see this moss hanging down and stuff, and there's some glitter type things glowing in the trees. And all the ancient ideas of the will o' the wisp, and they would take children away and stuff, and these witches. And hey, were some of these people bad? And if your children got away, would they do things to them? Oh man, there's tales. There's tales, but they don't want their children to get lost too. So here's the world tree, and it's not even a world tree. It's turned into this root thing. It's bad. But also, they're acting like in this area that the roots of all this area all connect, and these plants speak to each other communally. Well, there's a little pig. Huh. Just sitting there. And so you can go to this portal. We just came out of this one over here. Here's the original one that's here. And each area leads you around and over a river or into a different area that has different aspects to it. 3 different ways you're helping these people. And these are elves. And they end up getting help to go against all those people that are in there that have witches. But some of them are listed as giants, and some of them are listed as small people. And the middle ones ends up being the human, and the other people are no longer existing. And currently only in mythology. Well, in some strange way, these are the giants. And sometimes it's hard to see behind blue eyes. But sometimes they were the giants. Sometimes they had stories of giants. And whenever you put it all together, you get this weird morale here of things. Oh man, right where I was at there at Stonehenge, there's a leprechaun guy over there by that boat. And you can get a key from him and then come back to this other place and do this other little witch fin thing that's totally different, where you try to fight a bunch of giants that are kind of not giant, and then you run into a big giant guy that takes 3 times as much to kill him, but I smear him real easy. My deity is, though, I'm a ranger, and so quite often I have clothes on that are going to be that brownie of person, but that's the elves, because they were the woodland people and they wouldn't wear outlandish colors and things. They're trying to hide among the forest and do things. They're hunter-gatherers and all this type of situation, so they wouldn't be doing that. And they lived among the forest and were able to hunt and do things there. Did they capture animals and do stuff like that? Sure, yeah. I mean, you can tell in the old stories they had birds that were friends of them and all kinds of things. Did they have horses yet like this guy? No. See, that comes with the other guys. And then we can get off in stories of centaurs and how these horse people got turned into, well, horse people can be people that have horses, yeah, but horse people gets turned into horse people. Right? Sagittarius? Sagittar? Sagittar? Sag. So there's all kinds of stuff. Different elves. Here's a drow elf. They're dark with like silver gray hair and all these stories about them, and they lived mainly underground in caves and stuff. There's wood elves. There's different types of them. But elves, when they die, create a special kind of tree that I can't show you in a representation of it here, but it's called a yew tree, Y-E-W, yew tree. And this is a tree that's like the oaks and the ash and the maple, is sacred to all kinds of people. The sycamore, all the way from Egypt, where they did statues made out of yew and sycamore, all the way to these people. In fact, longbows were made out of yew because of its resilience, harkening back to these elven people long ago. For whenever an elf dies, it grows up a new tree that's a yew tree. Who? You. You. And in that first area, you have to save these seedlings and saplings and stuff. And one of them looks like an acorn or a nut type of deal to grow a tree. The other one is a sapling that you take to a different place and replant it and stuff. And there's a Johnny Appleseed idea in planting sacred groves and stuff. So you can turn around, much like the Dayton palm tree groves, have a sacred grove here in a garden in the middle of a forest that you've cleared out to make your homes and tree houses all out of wood. And later a whole idea of these elves and woodland creatures and all kinds of things goes on. And of course, a city person might make up silly stories about what goes on way deep in the boondocks. For these people that were elves would wear moss and stuff on them and smear colors across their face, kind of like camouflage so you couldn't see them. They would dress in weird outfits and do all kinds of things whenever they were hunting. And that looked like a modern day ghillie suit today. So if you saw this giant looking guy and he was wearing a ghillie suit, there's your Boggy Creek monster and all kinds of concepts like that. I'm not saying that's what the Boggy Creek monster was. I'm telling you that moo. I'm telling you that a lot of that stuff ends up going together. Well, let's see as I end this. Let's go to the next site here. When you come here, this is a sacred grove, but it's been blighted. Now the animals here aren't doing good. They have a disease on them. It must be like lice or things like that, and you have to put a salve on them. In this area, there's giant spiders. If you go down this way, let's see if he's there. You can talk to the leprechauns. I don't know if you can even say it says leprechaun. And there's the little leprechaun. The leprechauns, man, and he has a pot of gold. Well, this is something to look for. This is like a merchant type guy, but he's diminutive in size too. They make sure to let you know that this was here. Well, these diminutive people have a lot of money someplace, but you never know where it is. And so secretly it's inside of fairy mounds. Fairies are hooked up with leprechauns. And fairy mounds are these little burial mounds that are the same mounds that are in there that are burial mounds like Kurgan burials and stuff that you see in the Proto-Europeans, for that's where they came from. The second wave of Saxons and things that come in, or the second wave of that mythology that comes into it as a blend. And I think it's amazing even what the amount is kept of it, for they may be turned into mythical creatures and things of old, but in a way they were people that chased a rainbow, and they still exist today. For all of these people blended back together, for pretty much what's left here is the people that weren't getting good enough nutrition, ended up finally getting enough nutrition and started getting taller. The taller people kept being tall, and even in modern day we're even getting taller, breaking 6 foot easy. And you know those old castles are all made from 5 foot, so you can see people going like that. And you look at these Viking like people and Icelandic dudes and how huge they are, and the tales of the Icelandic giants, and you start to get an idea that some of this is quite the exaggeration. Yeah, well, if he took a potion of giant strength and he's that damn big, we're gonna, he thinks he is that damn big. And out of respect in the mythology, he is that damn big. But you can slay a giant. Things happen. And really what ends up happening is they all blend together in some type of way into what we currently have today. And looking back on it, I didn't win, but I didn't try to kill the quicklings. Looking back on it, with Ancient Tales of Bridget, oh, I haven't let that one out, Bridget and Bridge, and this idea of how to cross rivers. And ancient Sumerians talked about crossing rivers, and the Ivri were people that lived on the other side of the river, and how you could become the people that lived on the other side of the river. And then mythologies of what happened to you will be written by people that are over here, and when they come over, they have a totally different thing going on too. Look at these little people. Rip your guts. See, there's a Cyclops. Cyclops advisor. Just avoid his attack. You really can't do anything to me. Looks like he's got wizard powers and things they give to these Cyclops, huh? This is a speaking bell, and over there is where you got to get all the plants. And see, there's more tree houses and things there. For these little quicklings and brownie people, had tree houses too. What's up with that? Well, sometimes somebody ends up telling a story about themselves in a way that turns it into mythology, and then it's kept. And hopefully you've kind of followed what I've been saying and get something out of it. And I like the scenery and stuff that goes on here. These fleur-de-lis type plants, lotuses, and magic things. And ooh, there's the will-o'-the-wisp, which is really like lightning bugs, but also kids chasing lights in the forest and not going where they should have gone. That's probably for another video though. But witches, are they bad? Well, if we wouldn't have thought they were bad, maybe we would have medicines a whole lot sooner than we did now. And if witches got with the scientists, as opposed to it being totally separated in religion and things and the way that it went, could have been there a long time ago. I've got a little series coming up talking about how much the ancients knew and where they were at, and how we could have gotten to the Industrial Revolution, not just right after that, but a whole lot sooner. And what held us off was certain beliefs and ideas and twisted beliefs and mythologies and things like that that people have taken out of context. And if you've been watching my videos for the last 3 or 4 years here, you've seen a lot of what I'm talking about, and glimpses, murmurs, and ideas. And so in your mind, whenever you play D&D, you get this idea of these places that look like this and this fantasy world, and it's really sometimes not too far right outside your door. And this all kind of happened in a strange way in that same place long ago, but not so long ago, in a time that people haven't forgotten and still have tales of. I can tell witch tales and things like that, but we're just going to end this one here, guys. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. And we'll get on. I feel like I'm leaving one person out. I mean, it's the witches Finn and the Fomorian giants, and the brownies and pixies and fairies, fair people, and Tuatha Danann, and leprechauns even. I'm leaving something out, people. Frustrates me. There was one little extra topic. Like, I've got a string around my finger, and now I see the string, but I'm like, well, what the hell was I supposed to remember with there's the one more string on my finger. It'll have to go in another video. Maybe I'll remember it and write it down in the comments. Take care, guys. Peace.